A 3-hour tour. Sit back right there and enjoy a tale of me commentating on Elon. Like, who the fuck's this guy? In a red hat. Grab your coffee, grab your cigarettes, whatever your ailments are. We're gonna get into it. I'm gonna do it right off the top of my head. Here's a mess. It is. We'll do something about it later. My arm's a little sore. Been trying to work out. Nerve damage is a bitch, and with no money, we gotta take it kind of slow to make sure we have enough to repair the body. So I have not seen this. I'm watching it right with you in real time. So I'm gonna go grab coffee. I'm gonna play and listen, and I'm going to stop the video and then show you other videos about how this may not be the best way to go about saving humanity, for real. Environmental Health Trust, EHTscience.org, EHT or EHHealthScience.org, and I'm burning up my phone too for bandwidth. EHTrust.org, EHScience.org. These are going to be important later on because then you can know that I'm not full of it. Environmental Health Trust won in court against the FCC on the outdated safety guidelines that they use right now. If you see the rat video, which we may play during this, everything is based on the 1980 rat study, where they blasted monkeys and rats to the point where they couldn't push a food lever, even though they were starving. They took that number, divided it by 50 for everyone, divided it by 10 for workers. And only looked at thermal effects. I'm gonna grab some more coffee and I'm gonna play video. I already got one of my rebuttals. I only played a couple seconds and I was like, ooh, we gotta do a commentary on that. I only did play I played up to the part where he was just like, yeah, they need to go to space. As far as I got, and I was like, whoa, we gotta play this. 3 hours.
So are there really 3 hours of questions? Or are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
You don't even allowed to talk about Elon? Holy fuck, man.
There's my Guinness.
I mean, it's the most interesting point. All the storylines are kind of converging right now, so we'll see how much...
Almost like I planned it.
Exactly. Well, we'll get to
I would
that.
never do such a thing. So, as you know better than anybody else, the total cost of ownership of a data center, only 10 to 15% is energy, and that's the part you're presumably saving by moving this into space. Most of it's the GPUs. If they're in space, it's hard to service them, or you can't service them, and so the depreciation cycle goes down on them. So it's just way more expensive to have the GPUs in space, presumably. What's the reason to put them in space?
Well, the availability of energy is the issue. I mean, if you look at electrical output outside of China, everywhere outside of China, it's more or less flat. It's very, maybe a slight increase, but pretty much flat. China has a rapid increase in electrical output. But if you're putting data centers anywhere except China, where are you going to get your electricity? Especially as you scale. The output of chips is growing pretty much exponentially, but the output of electricity is flat. So how are you going to turn the chips on? Magical power sources? Magical electricity fairies?
You're famously a big fan of solar. 1 terawatt of solar power, so with a 25% capacity factor, like 4 terawatts of solar panels. It's like 1% of the land area of the United States. And that's like we're in the singularity when we've got 1 terawatt of data centers, right? So what are we running out of exactly?
How far into the singularity are you though?
You tell me.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we'll find we're in the singularity and okay, we're still a long way to go.
But is this is the plan to put it into space after we've covered Nevada and solar panels?
I think it's pretty hard to cover Nevada and solar panels. You have to get permits from the permits for that. Try getting the permits for that.
So space is really it's really a regulatory play. It's harder to build on land than it is in space.
It's harder to scale on the ground than it is to scale in space. but also you're going to get about 5 times the effectiveness of solar panels in space versus the ground, and you don't need batteries. I almost wore my other shirt, which says "It's always sunny in space," which it is. So, because you don't have a day-night cycle or seasonality, clouds, or an atmosphere in space, because the atmosphere alone, we're still at about a 30% loss of energy. So you can, for any given solar panels can do about 5 times more power in space than on the ground, and you avoid the cost of having batteries to carry you through the night. So it's actually much cheaper to do in space, and my prediction is that it will be by far the cheapest place to put AI will be space in 36 months or less, maybe 30 months.
36 months?
Less than 36 months.
How do you service GPUs as they fail, which happens quite often in training?
Actually, it depends on how recent the GPUs are that have arrived. I mean, at this point, we found our GPUs to be quite reliable. There's infinite mortality, which you can obviously iron out on the ground. So you can just run them on the ground and confirm that you don't have infinite mortality with the GPUs. But once they start working, their actual reliability and once they start working and you're past the initial debug cycle of NVIDIA or whatever, or whoever's making the chips, could be Tesla AI 6 chips or something like that, or it could be TPUs or Trainiums or whatever. The reliability is actually they're quite reliable past a certain point. So I don't think the servicing thing is an issue. But you can mark my words. In 36 months, but probably closer to 30 months, the most economically compelling place to put AI will be space, and then it will get it'll then get like ridiculously better to be in space, and then the scaling, the only place you can really scale is space. Once you start thinking in terms of what percentage of the sun's power are you harnessing, you realize you have to go to space. You can't scale very very much on Earth.
But by very much, to be clear, you're talking like terawatts.
Yeah. Well, all of the United States currently uses only half a terawatt of power on average.
Yeah.
Right. So, if you say a terawatt, that would be twice as much electricity as the United States currently consumes. So that's quite a lot. And can you imagine building that many data centers, or that many power plants? It's like those who have lived in software land don't realize that they're about to have a hard lesson in hardware. It's actually very difficult to build power plants, and then you don't just need you need power plants. You need all of the electrical equipment. You need the electrical transformers to run the transformers, the AI transformers. Now the utility industry is a very slow industry. They pretty much they impedance match to the government, to the Public Utility Commission.
We're going to stop right there and just focus on data centers here. You just heard all the things that you need. Power, power, power. Let's take a look at this book. Dirty Electricity by Dr. Samuel Milham. And if you go through, you'll be able to find his papers. You can read all about that. ADHD. The child leukemia, the school, the dirty electricity in school. You click on that.
Texas was.
You can hear about the case straight from EON3 on YouTube.
It was specialist. The specialist was a PhD epidemiologist who ran the Desert Sierra Cancer Registry. He'd been hired by the school to come and put out the fire. The teachers were concerned about cancer, an epidemic.
And just think, that was just dirty electricity and CFL light bulbs. Now, could you imagine what's going to happen in the people that live in the area of the data centers? Go check out Sam's work and bioinitiative.org. You can go over to bioinitiative.org. Should have more than enough there to get it. I'm not typing in a bunch of stuff. My nerves are blazing on my arm right now. So there's a little sidebar over here, and all you gotta do is click on Bioinitiative Report. Or sorry, RF color chart. Click on that, and you get the PDF here of all the studies that's been done on cell towers, Wi-Fi, smart meters. You'll get a whole list, and then the reference to that number, and then all the other biological effects. And you can even read the limitations that were set right now. 1996, these are the same standards as the 1980 rat study, and it tells you what the threshold is. And there's another threshold. And it gets you the threshold, still the 1996 guideline standard for public and occupational. Still hasn't been updated forever. Real science, real stuff that you can test with a meter. You can't get no better than that, right? The chip stuff, I don't know about the chips. I used to build computers, but a lot of damage to everything. Children take in 10 times more microwave radiation. You can go find that over Environmental Health Trust, either on YouTube or their websites that I mentioned before.
So they're Peter Smash, like literally very early. So they're very slow because their past has been very slow. So trying to get them to move fast is just like, like if you try to do an interconnect agreement have you ever tried to do an interconnect agreement with a utility at scale, like with a lot of power?
As a professional podcaster, I can say that I'm not, in fact.
Yeah.
They have to need many more views before that becomes an issue.
They have to do a study for a year. Okay, like a year later, they'll come back to you with their interconnect study.
Can't you tell this with your own behind-the-meter power stuff?
You can build power plants.
Yeah.
That's what we did at XAI for Classes 2. So for Classes 2...
But so while you're talking about the grid, why not just build GPUs and power co-locators?
That's what we did.
Right, but I'm saying, why isn't this a generalized solution when you're talking about all the issues?
So where do you get the power plants from?
I'm saying when you talk about all the issues working with utilities, you can just build private power plants with the data centers.
Right, but it begs the question of where do you get the power plants? Where do you get the power plants from? I mean, the power plant makers.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, does the gas turbine backlog, basically?
Yes. You can drill down to a level further. It's the vanes and blades in the turbines that are the limiting factor, because the casting, it's like a very specialized process to cast the blades and vanes in the turbines, assuming using gas power, and it's very difficult to scale other forms of power. You can scale potentially solar, but the tariffs currently for importing solar units are gigantic, and the domestic solar production is pitiful.
Why not make solar? That seems like a good Elon-shaped problem.
We are going to make solar.
Okay. Yeah, great.
Both SpaceX and Tesla are building towards 100 gigawatts a year of solar cell production.
How low down the stack, like from polysilicon up to the wafer to the final panel?
I think you got to do the whole thing from raw materials to finish the cell. Now, if it's going to space, it's actually it costs less, and it's easier to make solar cells that go to space because they don't need glass, or they don't need much glass, and they don't need heavy framing because they don't have to survive weather events. There's no weather in space. So it's actually a cheaper solar cell that goes to space than the one on the ground.
Is there a path to getting them as cheap as you need in the next 36 months?
Solar cells are already very cheap. They're like farcically cheap. It's and if you say, I think like solar cells in China are around like 25-30 cents a watt or something like that. It's absurdly cheap. And when you take into account now put it in space, and it's 5 times cheaper because it's 5 times. In fact, no, it's not 5 times cheaper. It's 10 times cheaper because you don't need any batteries. So the moment your cost of access to space becomes low, by far the cheapest and most scalable way to generate tokens is space. It's not even close. It'll be an order of magnitude easier to scale, and chips aside, an order of magnitude. Well, if the point is you won't be able to scale on the ground, it's just you just won't. People are going to hit the wall big time on power generation. They already are. The number of sort of miracles and series that the XAI team had to accomplish in order to get a gigawatt of power online was crazy. We had to gang together a whole bunch of turbines, and then we had permit issues in Tennessee and had to go across the border to Mississippi, which is fortunately only a few miles away.
Just a weird thought. Don't have anything to really back it up, but just a thought. Do you think it's a good idea to block sun in space that travels at the speed of light somewhere else that may need it? Something to think about, right? Because look what the light does for this planet. It gives it its life. What about where that solar panel is now blocking? Let's say this is the sun. Don't call me that. But yeah, you're gonna block that, and that light was traveling at the speed of light for thousands of years, and then all of a sudden it goes out. Do they know that it's hitting another planet somewhere else? Just a thought.
So, but we still have to.
Or maybe not even a planet, maybe another life form that can't move or needs only X amount of light per cycle. Who knows?
Run the high power lines a few miles and build a power plant in Mississippi. And it was very difficult to build that. And people don't understand like how much electricity do you actually need at the generator level, at the generation level, in order to power a data center. Because they look at the news will look at the power consumption of say a GB300 and multiply that by a thing, and then think that's the amount of power you need.
All the cooling and everything.
Wake up, yeah. This is like that's a total noob. You've never done any hardware in your life before. Besides the GB300, you've got to power all of the networking hardware. There's a whole bunch of CPU and storage stuff that's happening. You've got to size for your peak cooling requirements. So that means can you cool even on the worst hours, the worst day of the year? Like it's pretty freaking hot in Memphis. So you're gonna have like a 40% increase on your power just for cooling. Assuming you don't want your data center to turn off on hot days and you want it to keep going. Then you've got to say, well, there's another multiplicative element on top of that, which is, are you assuming that you never have any hiccups in your power generation? Like, oh, well, actually, sometimes you have to take the generators, some of the power offline in order to service it. Oh, okay, now you add another 20-25% multiplier on that, because you've got to assume that you've got to take power offline to service it. So the actual roughly every 110,000 GB300s, inclusive of networking, CPU storage, cooling, margin for servicing power, is roughly 300 megawatts.
Sorry, say that again.
It's roughly, or think about it like the way you think about it is like 330,000 to actually what you need at the generation level to service, probably service 330,000 GB300s, including all of the associated support networking and everything else, and the peak cooling, and to have some margin, some power margin reserve, is roughly a gigawatt.
Can I ask you a very naive question?
Yeah.
You're describing the engineering details of doing this stuff on Earth, but then there's analogous engineering difficulties of doing it in space. How do you do the how do you replace infinite band with orbital lasers, et cetera, et cetera? How do you make it resistant to radiation? I don't know the details of the engineering, but fundamentally, what is the reason to think those challenges, which have never been had to be addressed before, will end up being easier than just like building more turbines on Earth? There's companies that build turbines on Earth. They can make more turbines, right?
I invite, again, try doing it, and then you'll see. Like the turbines are sold out through 2030.
Have you guys considered making your own?
I think in order to bring enough power online, I think SpaceX and Tesla will probably have to make the turbine blades, the vanes and blades, internally.
But just the blades or the turbines?
The limiting factor, you can get everything except the blades, what they call the blades and vanes. You can get that 12 to 18 months before the vanes and blades. The limiting factor of the vanes and blades. And there are only 3 casting companies in the world that make these, and they're massively backlogged.
Is this Siemens, GE, those guys, or is it a separate?
No, it's other companies. I mean, sometimes they have a little bit of casting capability in house, but I'm just saying you can just call any of the turbine makers and they will tell you. Yeah. It's not top secret. It's probably on the internet right now.
If it wasn't for the tariffs, would Colossus be solar powered?
It would be much easier to make it solar powered. Yeah. The tariffs are nuts. So several 100%. So.
Don't you know some people?
Wilson needs speed. Yeah, no. President has his. We don't agree on everything, and this administration is not the biggest fan of solar.
But
we also need the land, the permits, and everything. So if you're trying to move very fast, I do think scaling solar on Earth is a good way to go, yeah. But you do need some amount of time to find the land, get the permits, get the solar, pair that with the batteries.
Well, why would it not work to stand up your own solar production? And then you're right that you eventually run out of land, but there's a lot of land here in Texas, there's a lot of land in Nevada, including private land. It's not all publicly owned land. And so you'd be able to at least get the next Colossus and like the next one after that. And at a certain point you hit a wall, but wouldn't that work for the moment?
As I said, we are scaling solar production. There's a rate at which you can scale physical production of solar cells. We're going as fast as possible in scaling domestic production.
You're making the solar cells at Tesla?
Well, Tesla and SpaceX have a mandate to get to 100 gigawatts a year of solar.
Speaking of the annual capacity, I'm curious, in 5 years' time, let's say, what will the installed capacity be on Earth?
5 years is a long time.
And in space? I deliberately picked 5 years because it's after your once we're up and running threshold. And so in 5 years' time, what's the on Earth versus in space installed AI capacity?
5 years, I think probably, if you say 5 years from now, we're probably, AI in space will be launching every year the sum total of all AI on Earth. In excess of, 5 years from now, my prediction is we will launch and be operating every year more AI in space than the cumulative total on Earth.
Which is?
So I would expect to be at least sort of 5 years from now, a few hundred gigawatts per year of AI in space and rising. So you can get to, I think on Earth you can get to around a terawatt a year of AI in space before we start having fuel supply challenges for the rocket.
Okay, but you think you can get to hundreds of gigawatts per year in 5 years' time?
Yes.
So 100 gigawatts, depending on the specific power of the whole system with solar arrays and radiators and everything is on the order of like 10,000 Starship launches.
Yes.
And you want to do that in 1 year. And so that's like one Starship launch every hour.
Yeah.
That's happening in this city. Like, walk me through a world where there's a Starship launch every single hour.
Yeah, I mean that's actually a low rate compared to airlines, like aircraft.
There's a lot of airports.
A lot of airports, but
And you got to launch the polar orbit.
and it doesn't have to be polar, but there's some value to sun synchronous, but
One every hour. How much pollution, devastation to wildlife, people, you name it, water supply, hydrological water cycle, documentary flow for the love of water. There are 1,600 man-made chemicals that enter into our water supply, 51 known by the EPA and unregulated. And then the part where the guy says, if you drink bad water or bottled water, I have some bad news for you. These simple pollutants come in through the simple act of showering. Yeah. Go see who that guy is in that video. I wanted to get deep on the whole thing of the data center for AI. But you gotta do homework, because I can't say it all. I want to get it right, and I know where to get it right at, and that's Environmental Health Trust and their case against the FCC, and the FCC lost because they didn't look at the vulnerability of children or pregnant women. Let that sink in. And Dr. Barry Trower, whether or not you want to call him doctor or not, because he's a whistleblower, he's got one question: what is the safe level of an embryo? So is this AI worth the DNA damage of children? I mean, we're going to see it eventually. We can look back at this video if we really wanted to and go, oh, we should have listened. But why? When you can go test it with scientific pieces of equipment right now, even before the data centers are even put up. If you know and you're fighting a data center right now, and you're fighting it, as you're fighting it, go take tests in that area. Go take some readings. Get building biologist institution if you don't have the tools for it, because they are expensive. 20 grand, 1,000, a little bit over 1,000 for the Safe and Sound Pro meter. But you could do the scientific work right now. So then when the shit goes down, you're ready. I mean, just look at the incidents with cell towers over Environmental Health Trust, on the measurements of where they had cancer, people who had cancer on their death mortality. I may be saying that wrong, but the length of how long it took for the cancer to really go after them. This is going to have devastating effects. And people that, get consumed by their knowledge, they get whatever they call that, laser focused without seeing the whole picture. I mean, listen to Environmental Health Trust, Deborah Lee Davis, the president. Listen to her story. I mean, she was an intelligent woman with many degrees, and someone came up to her and told her there was a problem with cell phones. And the way she even says it is probably the way that she acted. She acted real snarky. Oh, if there was a problem with cell phones, I would know about it, because I'm a scientist. I know everything that's important in science. And then she puts her head down because she was wrong. And she explains this in one of her lectures. It's really good. Because when you hear that, you got to kind of go and look, what are we doing this for? I mean, really. Even if it is in space and you have all this data center storage, for what? Making goofy pictures and goofy movies and getting impulsed by a microwave weapon to get you to get endorphin hits as you get microwave. That's the reality of it. About page legal RF exposure. Your phone manual tells you that you can't keep your phone that close to you. Otherwise, you exceed the outdated safety guideline that lost in court and still hasn't updated it at all. Those are facts. Children get 10 times more, and their brain isn't even fully developed. They get 10 times more in their skulls because they have thinner skulls. You can see that over at Environmental Health Trust on the same modelings that they use for cell phones. And then they lied. Cell phone companies lied on passing the outdated safety guideline, Chicago Tribune. They used spacers in between it. And I gotta say, the Dr. Oz show or whatever did one too. Same lab, by the way. Same lab. Check that out once. Same lab. And their phone looks squeaky clean. But it was just one phone. And the way that they're testing it makes a big difference on what the millimeter spacing is. Most people have it right straight up to their head all day. And when you look at the rat study, 4 watts per kilogram. Yeah. And they stopped pushing that lever for food even though we're starving. It don't take too much to get that high. And look at the Chicago Tribune on the numbers they got. One was high as 7 or more. I think it's a little bit more. But those data centers that are in space, that data's got to come back down here. And how do you think it's going to do that? 5G? Then on to 6G. More radiation. Pushed down. And children will absorb it more. According to Dr. Barry Trower, it's short, closer, or multitude of the bandwidth. Plus, all the animals, bees, cryptochrome. This is something that's brand new. We don't know what's going to happen. But we kind of do, though, because the science is already there. Look at the cryptochrome. It's in all types of animals. They need it for their navigation. What if all hell breaks loose? I mean, let's look at it. Let's look at the science work that they did with plants. Let's just look at the children one that they did in high school, or I think it was grade school. And they put seeds by a router and they didn't sprout. What if we sterilized all our seeds? For what? Let's take a look at business, all business. All it does is cause damage to the earth. Some shape, way, or form. That's just the way it is, right? Well, that damage goes on to the children that we get from our land, because that's where our children come from. You eat plants